Okay, let's jump right into a really fascinating puzzle. We're going to explore how one single, everyday word can be the key to unlocking a bunch of completely different, and I mean completely different, worlds that don't seem connected at all. It sounds like the setup for a weird joke, right? What could possibly connect the deep reverence of a church service, the creative planning of a museum gallery, and the technical details of taking a picture? Well, stick with me, because the answer is actually simpler and way more interesting than you might think. I mean, just look at this list. It is all over the place. We're bouncing from sacred religious practices to financial planning, from a judge's ruling to the anatomy of your ribcage. At first glance, there is absolutely no thread connecting these things. It's like they're from different universes, each with its own language. Or so it seems. And here it is, the big reveal, the key that connects everything. It's one Spanish word, exposición. This is the term that ties all of those separate topics together. So let's become linguistic explorers for a few minutes and dive into the different worlds that this one word opens up. So our first stop is probably the most specific and the most intense. We're stepping into the world of theology, where exposition has this really profound, sacred weight to it. You see, in this world, an exposition isn't just a display or a presentation. It's a very specific rite in Catholicism. It's a moment of really deep spiritual meaning. It's the act of placing the consecrated Eucharist out for public adoration. And to really get the significance of this, you have to understand the concept of latria. This isn't just regular respect or honor. No, this is the absolute highest form of worship that exists, something reserved only for God. So the Exposition Eucharistica is basically setting the stage for an act of latria. And this quote from the source material just perfectly captures the whole point of that worship. It's about the worshiper, the creature, losing their own sense of self to become totally absorbed in the divine. That's a really powerful and transformative idea. So let's sum up our first world. Here, exposition means an act of the highest spiritual importance. It's about making the divine visible so it can be adored. Now, I want you to hold that idea in your head as we jump to our next world, where this word means something completely different. Okay, we're making a pretty big leap now. We're going from the sacred space of the altar to the very secular walls of an art gallery. The setting is totally different, but the word, exposición, stays the same. So let's ask our question again. Here, in the world of museums and art, what does exposición mean? Well, this is the one most of us probably think of, an exhibition. But what does that actually involve? Well, according to our sources, it's way more than just hanging some stuff on a wall. A really great exhibition is a carefully designed environment. It's supposed to spark a conversation of ideas, a dialectic. It's engineered to grab your curiosity and then guide you toward a very specific feeling or thought. Our sources give us some great concrete examples. You could have an intimate solo show for a photographer like Tina Modotti inside a museum. Or you could have the total opposite. Massive, giant photographs by Manolo Laguillo put up outdoors in a public park, right in the middle of people's daily lives. Both are a kind of exposition. And what's really cool is we can even borrow a framework from a business management text that was in our source materials to understand this process. You start with a standard. That's your core idea. Then you measure how people react. You correct what isn't working, and finally, you engage with the feedback, the bigger conversation that it creates. It's a living, breathing thing. All right, let's pick up the pace a bit. We've seen the sacred world and the art world. Now we're jumping into a whole bunch of technical fields where exposición is a precise tool for professionals. This slide is great because it just lays the contrast out so clearly. To a photographer, exposition is all about physics. It's the exact measurable amount of light you expose the film or sensor to. But to a judge, it's a formal statement in a legal sentence, the part that exposes the facts and the final decision that's going to change someone's life. Same word, totally different universes. And believe it or not, it doesn't stop there. In finance, it can be a series of payments laid out or exposed over time. In anatomy, it's a super detailed scientific description exposing the structure of the thorax, for example. And in a boardroom, it's just the formal presentation of a business plan. Each one of these fields takes the word and molds it for its own very specific purpose. So, after that whirlwind tour through all these different worlds, what's the big picture? What are we supposed to take away from all this? This table really just brings it all home, doesn't it? We went all the way from sacred adoration to a scientific description. That core idea of putting something out there or presenting something is kind of there in the background, but wow, has it been stretched and reshaped in some incredible ways? And that gets us to the most important point of all. There's no single true or correct meaning of exposition. The meaning isn't something that's locked inside the letters of the word itself. Here's the key. A word's real power comes from its context, from the world it lives in. The specific field, the setting, the culture around it, that's the invisible frame that gives our language its specific meaning. In the end, context really is everything. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What simple, everyday words do you use that might mean something totally different to a doctor or a lawyer or an artist? What hidden worlds are just waiting to be discovered in your own vocabulary? Thanks for joining me.